Okay, it's now broadcasting.
Okay. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Any conflict of interest for today? Approval of the agenda. And then Brian. Adoption of the minutes from our last meeting. Brian and then Jeff. Perfect. Motion to receive communications. I'm going to throw Christian in there. And Jeff. Okay, let's go. We have several in from the Ministry of the Solicitor General. The first is letting us know that there is going to be a temporary e-hub for electronic information with respect to the judicial process. So please send information and associated documents electronically in order for judges to review them. On this one, Angie?
Yes, so this electronic e-hub, it came down quickly for us and we got about a 24-hour notice. So it started with us for wash courts and now it's being introduced as of today. It's actually starting. And so this is a little bit of an earlier Alchies, but it's actually starting today within the court systems. But it's going to be working just fine. It took the initial e-hub temporary one just to work out the bugs, and now it'll be being implemented fully. So I think it'll be good.
Great.
But our court office tells us it's going to be working well.
Okay. I'm glad they're optimistic. Next topic, gatherings. I think this one maybe now in terms of the numbers, but the gist is the same. Angie?
Yes, so so basically it's just updating us on some of these new regulations that the prohibitions don't apply to gatherings of a member of a single household and gatherings for the purpose of funeral services that are attended by no more than 10 persons. So it allows those funeral services now to be held with an increased number. I'm just kind of quickly going through here. It talks about, yes, vehicle gatherings for religious purposes are now allowed as well, and that allows persons in the same family to be in the car. The cars have to be 2 meters apart. Those that are giving the religious service have to be 5 and under in terms of numbers. So it allows that to happen as well. Again, there's a few stipulations with respect to what can be exchanged within the ceremony, the religious ceremony. But outside of that, I think it's something that has been happening in some communities earlier, you know, and there was some controversy over it, but they're allowing this to happen now.
Okay. Police functions. So this is training with respect to specialized police functions. And so I'm assuming we're going to be rolling out that training.
Chris, are you able to comment on this one?
Suspect apprehension pursuit, functions with a major case management system, communications and dispatch, including supervisory roles.
Yeah. So basically it's allowing us to have the initial, you have to have the initial training for these specialized functions. And then it's up to the chiefs to ensure that as time goes on that they're updated once the positions are relaxed a little bit, but the initial training needs to be done on these. So the front end training.
Is this new to us? Have we not had this training before, or is this just a reminder of ongoing training obligations?
So if you're new to a unit and you're doing and you need to be trained in major case management, then you need to have that major case management training, that initial training. And then there are some trainings like the CIICC training that you need to have the initial training, but there's also refresher trainings that can be done, and they're done online training. So it just makes sure that you have to have the initial training that's done for those major courses for criminal investigations, forensic identification. It's quite a long course. You wouldn't just get in there without that initial training. Scenes of crime, hostage rescue, major incident command, crisis negotiations.
Okay.
Chris, is there anything additional that you wanted to add on that?
Can you hear Chris? I'm not sure that Chris is coming through.
I don't think Chris is online.
No, I don't see him.
No.
Maybe we lost him. Okay, I think that's good, Angie.
Yeah.
Okay,
It
I
also says that a course like, for example, a course like the drug recognition course, again, those are courses that are mandated. You have to have prescribed training for that. And again, there is no leeway on that. You need to have the drug recognition course, and then you have to have the updated training that goes along with it. So it's just prescribing and ensuring that the training is still there for the initial training on, and especially on the drug recognition where there is no leeway because it's outside of our purview. It's run through the IACP.
Okay, thank you. Next is letting us know about changes to court administration and correctional facilities as a result of COVID-19.
Yes. So again, Chris, it's too bad that he's not on. Let me just
Maybe
I'm
his
just gonna
audio
knock
is.
on, yeah, get him, and then we can, because that's his area here. He's done some research on this.
Yeah, just give me a sec.
We can probably talk about the first one because I think it's been in the news and it's well laid out in the memo here. So bench warrants can now be done for people in custody that are not able to appear. So there's no requirement to appear. So it's a bit more discretionary now
Yeah.
as a result of COVID-19.
Yeah, and likewise with DNA orders, and we're having to get these done. We're ensuring that these DNA orders are going to be done. They've been a little bit on hold in terms of what's been happening, but once this COVID gets and the courts get back into the system, we're back into ensuring that the DNA orders are being done. And it does allow for going into the institutions to actually do these DNA orders or the blood sampling as well. But I know that we are on top of ours, so we're good. We're on top of it. Likewise with bail and parole conditions reporting to the police service. So we've got that in place as to how they can report to us during that COVID without that extra hands-on. So we can still take care of that.
Okay, great. Next is about electric kick-style scooters. So at first I didn't know what this was, but luckily they have a picture. Like the kind of scooters that you kind of ride, and I guess they're called kick scooters because you can kick with your foot to propel them. Or if you could see, if I were standing up, you'd know exactly what I was doing. But I guess they're also electric. So there's a 5-year pilot program to allow them on the road, but there has to be a municipal bylaw enacted first in order to allow for it.
And I don't think that we've applied for that here in our municipality.
Okay.
It's just really talking about how to, if there is an accident, a collision, it's talking about how to report these collisions and how you would mark it on the forms. So it's marked on as a bicycle as opposed because typically they aren't allowed. So we have to make some modifications within the forms within municipalities that are actually allowing these to be there as a pilot project.
Yes, it makes sense that they're going on as bikes.
Yeah, makes sense.
Oh, exemptions under the Highway Traffic Act for handheld devices. So this memo is letting us know that there are 2 limited exemptions. Is for handheld two-way radios by commercial public transit and public function drivers and licensed amateur radio operators. And the next is, I guess, CSIS officers are also exempt. So next time when I give somebody the stink eye when I'm driving, I'll notice if they're a CSIS officer.
Right.
The next one is letting us know or reminding us about the Serious Fraud Office that was created about 1.5 years ago. It's a collaborative project led by the OPP. And just reminding us that we can make requests to the Serious Fraud Office for services and support if we're ever dealing with fraud that would fall within the category of serious, which is a fraud that has a significant impact on society or significant financial loss.
Yeah, and it just outlines the process of how police organizations in Ontario can make requests for service and what that process looks like.
Yeah, and I think that's helpful because I've been reading about there being an increased number of frauds, of taking advantage of people because of COVID-19, which is unfortunate, but I guess that happens.
Yes, hello everyone. I do apologize. Donna had to send me a new link. I could hear you, but I couldn't join you. So I do apologize for not participating earlier.
That's okay, Chris. We're glad you're back. All right, funeral services. This is around interpreting the regs and limits with respect to funeral services.
Let's just see here.
Essentially,
Yeah, so this is really confirming what our earlier one was, that we were allowed to have 10 persons at funerals, which was an exemption under the 5-person limit for public social gatherings. Anything more on your part there, Chris?
no, that's exactly it. This is a little bit behind the Premier's announcements, but this is exactly that. We're allowing continue to loosen up the restrictions.
Okay. Next is letting us know that the basic constable training program is back on. Actually, I don't know if it ever stopped, but there were concerns about it going ahead with respect to COVID. But I gather that they have put measures in place to make sure that everybody who attends basic constable training can be safe. So it's rolling forward.
Yeah, so right now they're in their 14 days of self-isolation at home, and they've got work to do from the Ontario Police College in terms of pre-work that gets done. We actually had on Tuesday a virtual swearing in. So we had Justice Mew swear in everybody, the new recruits. They were all within their own homes and they signed off the paperwork and so forth. So it was the first time that we've had to do something like that. So it was actually a very unique experience, very human experience, I have to say. We had whatever, you got family that are there watching, and one had a pet walk across the computer. So that was good. I like the cat. But it was nice. It was a very human way of doing things, despite the long distance approach. It had some very human qualities to it.
Yeah, I think to do that because that's really important. That ceremony is really important for new recruits, right? It's a milestone for them, and so I'm glad that that you figured out a way to make it happen for them.
Yeah.
Next is sort of similar. It's confirming that the promotional exams are going to go ahead at the end of this month. Again, they're going to be in person, but there are safety measures that have been put in place.
Chris
Yes.
is running here.
Yeah, so yeah, June 28th, we're hosting for ourselves as well as the Belleville Police, Gananoque Police, and Brockville Police. We'll utilize our community room, and we'll of course use our COVID screening. And I know that our candidates are very excited to get this going. Normally they would have written in March and would have had the results back now. So we have it in place. Inspectors Rice and Inspector Begbie will proctor along with the representative from the Ontario Police College. So there'll be 17 people total, but we have all COVID measures in to make sure that everyone can get this completed. And our organizational renewal, it's important that we have these people go through this process.
Thanks, Chris.
What's the failure rate on those exams? Just in general.
They kind of get reviewed after each year. Generally, around 75% of the applicants make it through the exam. It fluctuates high 60s And normally they try to adjust the exam every couple of years, you know, because well, anyone in academia knows sometimes as you change the exams, it's a little bit tougher. So you just kind of try to keep that fairness. You want to challenge people, but you also want to not make the hurdle too high.
And to what extent does the placement on the exam factor into subsequent decisions for promotion?
With our process, the exam is your gateway. You have to get a passing mark, which is 70% at this point in a promotional order. And it's not, you don't get a value, whether you get 95 or 71, that doesn't contribute. It just lets you enter the process from there. And then there's all other factors and we're actually doing a comprehensive review of our promotional process to make sure it's equitable and fair to all participants. So that's a joint committee with the association, broad member base, chaired by HR Director Sonia Verbeek.
Thanks, Chris. Next is letting us know that applications for the RIDE grant program for this year, going into 2021 and then 2021 to 2022, are being accepted. They're due the end of, well, June 30th. So we're applying, right? Yes,
absolutely. We'll be applying for that. And that's managed through our core unit, the scheduling of that. I don't have the form directly in front of me at this moment. I believe it's $36,000 for our size of our organization.
Okay, great. So hopefully we get the funding. The next is letting us know that there has been some questionable use, not specifically us, but just police in general, of the first responders COVID-19 risk lookup tool web portal. So we have discussed this web portal before. It's the repository of information that police can access in order to determine the COVID status of somebody. But I gather that the ministry has been auditing use, and they have found that some people are not using it in the way that the ministry has directed. So just reminding everybody to please use it in accordance with the rules that were established. And Angie or Chris, has this been communicated to our members to make sure that everybody is accessing this properly?
Absolutely. And we have not been notified by the ministry that our agency has been flagged or anything like that. So, but this has been sent out as a reminder. We've got the policies in place to ensure that they're abiding by that. So.
Okay, great. And then the final one in under this heading is COVID-19 testing for police services. So testing is now just broadly available. But at the time of this memo, police were able to receive testing even if they were asymptomatic, along with other first responders.
Right. Correct.
Okay, now we now have three things in from the CAPG. First is letting us know that Mickey Ruth is the new president. I don't believe that I have met Mickey. She looks familiar to me, but I don't believe that I've met her. But she comes to us with also experience, so that will be nice. It's also nice to have a woman as head of CAPG. The next item is a call for nominations. So there are still some spots available on the CAPG, including a vacancy in Ontario. So if anybody is interested in being on the CAPG, just let us know. We can make that nomination happen. And the third and final item is, I'm madly scrolling. Oh yeah, letting us know that the CAPG and First Nations conference that was in the fall in Victoria has been canceled. And they're going to be doing it, so we'll wait for that. We'll wait for the information about how to attend virtually. From the OAPSB. First is from Neil Fennell, chair of our zone, reminding us that all of the meetings have been canceled for the rest of the year. Next is scheduled 2 one mid-June in Ottawa, and one mid-September. So hopefully by that point in time, we can all get back together again and have an in-person meeting. Second from the KPSB is the AGM held on May 29th. An update about what happened at the AGM. No delegations to report. Annual report under the Missing Persons Act. And
Yes, so with respect to the Missing Persons Act, we are obliged to file a report if we have accessed an emergency order to obtain information to locate a missing person. At this point in time, we have done none of those, so that has not been done at all between July 1st to December 31st. So that is our report to the ministry. So this were some changes within the Missing Persons Act to allow police agencies to do this, and this is sort of the accountability portion to report back. Can't hear you.
Andrew's muted.
Oh.
all right, I'm back. Next, we have a presentation by Steve Sanderson on the Collision Reporting Center. I don't see him.
I have to promote him, so it should be showing up soon.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
Hi, can everybody hear me? Great, terrific. Well, thanks so much for having me present today. Madam Chair, Chief, Deputy Chief, and members of the board. My name is Steve Sanderson, and I'm the president of Accident Support Services International. We currently operate 52 different reporting centers in partnership with police services, municipal and provincial police services across Ontario and Alberta. What I've done today is I've just put together a few slides for you so that we can go through the value that we present to your community and what it is that we do for your police service. So I'm just trying to figure out how to take over these slides here. And bear with me.
We
Okay.
have some slides in our board package. I don't know if you're trying to screen share, but I should tell you that we do have some slides in our board package that the board members will be able to access directly, if that helps.
Can everybody see those slides up on the screen?
So what everybody should be able to see is the first slide. It's a blue pattern on one side, and then it says Accident Support Services presents Collision Reporting Center program to Kingston Police June 1, 2020. And then the slides after that. Is that what you're looking at?
Okay. Well, I've just changed the slide.
If no one can see the slides, I can probably call it up from here.
Are you screen sharing? Steve, are you screen sharing?
Yes, can
Okay, okay. I just upgraded you, so. Try again.
I'm just getting some help from Norgie here. Just
There we
There
go.
we go.
I think it was something I had to do from here too.
Yeah, you had to, I think you had to change him from an attendee to a,
Well,
presenter.
I had done that, but I also had to do the
Thanks very much.
screen sharing.
Okay, we're good to go.
All right. Okay, terrific. So as I mentioned, we currently partner with multiple police services and departments within the province of Ontario and Alberta. Most of our collision reporting centers are located inside police stations. So with your population, pre-COVID, we would have one full-time manager and 2 to 3 part-timers currently assigned to your location. And last year you had a total of 3,505 collisions. And I just want to walk you through the process. So when people have collisions, they'll call the 911 operator, and the 911 operator will ascertain whether there's criminal activity, injury, hazardous goods. And if the answer is no to those 3 questions, then they'll be instructed to attend the station and report their collision. If the answer is yes, then the police will send out an officer to investigate the collision on the scene. The benefits for the police service are enhanced officer safety. We're reducing secondary collisions, so the officers aren't, in a dangerous spot, the side of the road, in the middle of the winter, and people sliding into the back of them. The service frees up the officers so that they can attend higher priority calls for service, and this allows your police department to become fairly efficient in responding to those higher priority calls. The program that we supply, it's called CROMS, and it stands for Collision Reporting Occurrence Management System. And what we do is we take all that information and we provide it to your police service so that they can do real-time analysis of these collisions. So everybody knows where the top 10 intersections are in Kingston that has all the collisions, but why are they happening? Is it side swipes? Is it rear ends? Is it left-hand turns? Well, if it's a rear end, then they'll put a radar car a half a mile up the road. If it's a side swipe, they'll put an officer right on the light. And if it's continuous left-hand turn collisions, then they'll eventually give it to engineering and stick a left-hand turn light in there. So this allows the police service to get in there, analyze where their problems are in the committee or within the community. The data is very accessible and it's very timely. So it's uploaded every 24 hours. And in addition to that, we save the service a lot of clerical time. So once that collision is captured, we send it up to your RMS system. So this means that your clerks don't have to retype all that information into the system. We also do what's called a Ministry of Transportation validation, which takes anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. And what we do is validate all 266 data fields on that form, that collision form, and send it to Kingston so that it can, the MTO in Kingston, so that it can be placed into the provincial records. So benefits to the public, it's really convenient because, you're taking your son to the hockey game. I'm taking my wife out to dinner. We collide, we exchange information, and we come in within 24 to 48 hours. So we can get on with our lives, but we find that most people either come in on their lunch break or just shortly after dinner. So as I mentioned earlier, it increases the safety of the citizens and police. Clearing the roadway, we're reducing traffic congestion, and we've made the process much more convenient, and the claims process becomes much more quicker. And the licensed insurers that write automobile policies, they're the ones that pay us. So this program is totally no charge to the police service. It's funded by the insurers in the province. We currently have 92% of the insurers that write automobile policies supporting our program here in Kingston. Once you come to the center, we photograph the car. We put a damage reported to police sticker on the car. This cuts down on fraud. In the past, some body shops would create some damage, which is consistent with the damage on the vehicle, and just to beef up the sale of the repair. So this has basically put a stop to it, and as such, it helps stabilize premiums. The information is made timely to your engineers, and it allows them to resolve those road configuration issues. As far as the insurers go, these insurers, the faster they can open a claim, the faster they can close it, and the more administrative dollars they save, and that's why they fund this program. But it also improves the customer service. So what a lot of the insurers are doing now is they're doing an electronic first notice of loss. So what that means, while that consumer is in the police station reporting their loss, if they wish to report it, the information's immediately sent to the insurer. And while the citizen is in the police station, they're receiving a text back from their insurer saying, here's your claim number. We've got your claim. This is your adjuster's name. And we're basically here to help you. So the process gets started immediately. And our surveys indicate that 97% of the public are extremely happy with the system that you have there in Kingston. So as I mentioned earlier, our collision reporting occurrence management system that you have access to, back in 2003, we won a Microsoft Global E-commerce Award for it. 2005, we won a Canadian Impact Award. We also won another one in 2008. And then in 2019, we were a finalist in the insurance technology awards. So we've been a leader in the technology piece of this road safety program, and as such, we've invested. So I've just provided a screen here. It shows basically how many collisions you're looking at a month, and you know, your peak periods seem to be December and January. December 347, January 361. But I'd like to just go through the numbers here just to show you what kind of reallocation opportunities you have there. So your property damage collisions, the ones where people attend the station, you have 1,983. You have approximately 1,522 injury and fatal collisions where your officers are attending those, for a total of 3,505. The current investigative police hours, the total property damage, and that word on scene shouldn't be in that slide, but your total property damage collisions, average about 90 minutes per collision is what an officer will spend on that, is roughly 2,974.5 hours. You're currently investing 5 minutes per collision or per customer that comes in to sign off and check the consistency and accuracy of the form after we've completed it. So in the past, where you would spend 90 minutes, you're now spending 5 minutes with that file. Well, the investigative labor equals 2,809 hours per year just on not attending these collisions. So that is the equivalent of 1.75 full-time officers. And over a 15-year period, the estimated savings is roughly $3,675,000. And we're told that an officer nowadays, by the time you train them, put him in uniform and pay him along with benefits, it's approaching close to $140,000 a year. So we calculated over 5 years, you would save roughly 8.75 officers. At 10 years, you're at 17.5, and at 15 years, which is the length of our contracts, they're 5, 5, and 5. It's 26 officers. But in addition to that, there's all the data entry that is done at our end that you managed to pick up. So for the clerical savings, there's roughly 20 minutes per collision in order to validate it with the MTO, the Ministry of Transportation, because we do validate your on-scene collisions along with sending them up to the RMS system that you currently have, which is Versadex. So the administrative cost there over a 15-year period is $602,000. And you can see after 15 years, you're looking at about 10 admins. I think we put in a cost of about $50,000 a year for a first-class clerk there. And that's what I've got for you today. And we certainly have enjoyed serving you and the community over the past 10 years. And we're certainly looking forward to serving you over the next 5. Do you have any questions?
Go ahead.
So I appreciate the presentation. Thank you. I'm not sure whether perhaps you weren't briefed on the reason for your appearance, or perhaps you avoided the reason why you were here. But the question was not with regards to the value for service. The question was regards to the City of Kingston through the police service effectively providing your business with free rent in the location of being co-located with in the building of the police service. You mentioned that a majority of your services are co-located within the property of police services. If you could please let us know in how many of those cases you do not pay any rent, and if you could let us know on the rent proposition in the cases where you do pay rent to the local police service or municipality where you are co-located, not calculating the utilities, which are of course already part of your reimbursement to the service.
Yes, absolutely. The reason why I wanted to show you the value is so that you could understand why the honorarium is so low. So what we do here is we provide you with a substantial savings. We also provide you with free labor, and as such, the honorarium that we pay is roughly $1,500 per service per year, and it's strictly an honorarium. And we do have one service that we work with that gets slightly more, but they also have roughly 30,000 collisions a year. So the volume is much more, and we take up much more space. Does that help at all?
No, I appreciate the honorariums are likely also based on the volume that's generated, because that also means the amount of money that comes in. So for comparable services of Kingston's size, do you tend to pay honorariums? And if so, in what range are those? Because of course, there's a big difference also in the value of property between between the GTA, for instance, and Kingston?
Well, we've started, we've been doing this for 25 years, Doctor, and we always start at $1,500 per year with a CPI every year. So I think if we look at the CPI currently now over 10 years, I think you're close to $2,000. I don't have it in front of me, but we do that with every. So there's no difference between you and Barrie, North Bay. You're welcome to call any of those board chairs and verify what I'm telling you, but that's what we do.
And when you refer to an honorarium, that seems to be somewhat, and Chair, please correct me if I'm wrong, but that differs from how it's described in our documentation, because in our documentation it's described as a reimbursement for expenses, ancillary expenses such as utilities, whereas you describe it as an honorarium. So I'm trying to sort of understand the
Well, when you take a look at it, the amount basically covers your utilities. So I don't know how you want to shake it out, but I think based on the amount of money that we're talking about here, it's much easier to just call it an honorarium. Sometimes we refer to it as, hey, it pays your hydro bill.
And so there's no location where you pay actual rent, that in all the places where you're co-located, at least in Ontario, it is an honorarium arrangement. Is that correct?
That's correct. And it's an honorary arrangement out in Alberta too. It's the same thing.
Thank you. That answers my questions.
You're welcome, Doctor.
Other questions?
I'm sorry.
I don't see any. So thank you, Steve, for coming and joining our board meeting today. It was really nice to meet you, and it was nice to hear from you as well.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks for having me, and be safe. And we really appreciate the relationship that we have with you. So thanks very much. And I know Donna Gard, our manager there, she just loves you guys. And thanks for the way you treat her. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Steve.
Thank you.
Bye. Okay, so that was helpful. Gave lots of contextual information, which I do think is valuable for everybody, but then also answered some direct questions at the end. So now taking in all of that information, there is a motion request from Angie, and this goes back to our meeting last month, to extend the term of the agreement for an additional 5-year term to September 30th, 2020. Any questions about that motion, or is anybody prepared to move it? Ryan is moving it. Do I have a seconder? Jeff? Everyone in favor? All right. Thanks, everybody.
Sorry, that was the mayor and Jeff?
Yes.
Okay. Sometimes your voice cuts in and out, so
Does it?
yeah.
I'm using my computer audio. Just let me know, like, say we can't hear you or something.
Yeah, okay.
So next is from Donna. This is
Oh, no, you've got one more motion. There's just no paperwork.
Oh, you are right.
I'm always right.
Donna, I'm going to catch you out. I'm serious. I'm asking you. All right. This is to ratify a motion, passed by a poll, so this is by email, pending the next regular meeting, to appoint Roberto Bernardino, Richard Fawcett, Maria Bowers, Jesse Heron, Heather Young, Ashley Knapp, and Rachel Daggett as officers effective June 8th. Can you do that for me? There you're going to. There we go. Seconder, Brian, all in favor? Thank you.
Did you want to hear the bios on them?
Yeah, that would be nice.
Chief, would you like me to begin with the first three?
Yeah, you can carry on. That's good.
Okay.
All of them. Yep.
Okay, begin with Roberto Bernardino. Roberto was born and raised in Kingston, graduated from Holy Cross Catholic Secondary School. From there, he attended St. Lawrence College in Kingston and received his diploma in Police Foundations program. He has worked as an accounts manager for Finley Foods for the past 8 years and has also been an assistant coach for the men's soccer team at Royal Military College. It was through soccer they prepared the team to be the best they can be, both on and off the field. He has extensive community volunteer involvement, including Victim Services of Kingston and Frontenac, Cataract Clippers Soccer Club, and assisted with the Santa Cruz Parade, as well as supporting neighboring seniors where he resides. Roberto is very family oriented and likes to spend time with his family and close group of friends. He enjoys the outdoors and updating his home. Next, I'll move to Mariah Bowers. Mariah was born in Burlington and grew up in Belleville, where she graduated from Quinney Secondary School. From there, she attended Brock University and graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree with a major in psychology. She's been employed part-time with her family-owned business in Belleville and prior as an harbor attendant with the Myers Pier Belleville from May 2018 to October 2019. Since March 2018, Mariah has volunteered with the Niagara Regional Police Service as an auxiliary constable, where she attended public events, performed foot patrols, point duties, ride-alongs with officers. In addition, she has volunteered her time with Little Hoops basketball. Mariah loves the outdoors and has obtained certifications in open water and advanced rescue scuba diving. Her other favorite pastimes are CrossFit and horseback riding. Next, I have Rachel Daggett. Rachel was born and raised in Kingston area and graduated from Frontenac Secondary School. She became interested in policing at a young age and furthered this interest by applying to Trent University, where she graduated with honors in a degree of Bachelor of Science in Forensic Science. During her program, she completed a placement with the Peterborough Police, where she researched and developed policy on police cell phone usage, as well as another on records management. Rachel has done volunteering with the Kingston Animal Rescue, where she has helped plan and organize fundraising events, as well with the Kingston Humane Society. In her spare time, Rachel has a passion for working out, staying active, especially in the outdoors. Richard, or RJ Fawcett, was born and raised in Kingston and is a graduate of Regiopolis Notre Dame High School. He then continued his education at St. Lawrence College to pursue a career in policing, where he received his diploma with distinction in Police Foundations. In addition, he has completed his certification as a fitness clinician from the International Association of Resistance Trainers. RJ has been very active in the community, volunteering. He currently instructs off-ice training for the Kingston AAA Pee Wee Hockey and volunteers at Providence Care, where he does inpatient activities and programs. Through his work as the Director of Business Development for a prescribed exercise clinic, he encouraged gym clients to bring donations for the Salvation Army, food, and toy drives. During his leisure time, RJ enjoys spending time with his family and friends, playing hockey in the winter months, and reading books for personal development. Jesse Huron, or Jesse, was born and raised in Kingston area and graduated from Holy Cross Catholic Secondary School. He attended Humber College in Toronto, where he obtained his diploma in Police Foundations. After graduation, he was hired as a protection officer with the Kingston Hospital's Protection Services, where he has worked for the past 3 years with individuals in crisis. He has also worked as a team member with Me to We, which uses a sustainable development model to help empower people with tools to lift themselves out of poverty. Through this program, he has led youth groups in countries such as Ecuador, Kenya, Tanzania, and China. During this time with Me to We, Jesse was exposed to a different kind of life in several countries, giving him an appreciation for the cultural differences and finding his passion for social justice. During his leisure time, Jesse enjoys spending time with his friends and family, and hobbies include photography, dog agility, as well as spending time in the gym. Ashley Knapp. Ashley was born in Inverness, Scotland, and grew up in Kingston, where she graduated from Bayridge Secondary School. She attended Carleton University as a graduate with a Bachelor of Arts in Criminology with a concentration in Sociology, following which she completed the Social Services Fast Track program at St. Lawrence College. Her prior work experience has been with community living and innovative community services, where she worked with adult clients who have dual diagnosis. Ashley has volunteered in United Way Homeless Count, organized a fundraiser at St. Lawrence College for youth, Kingston Youth Shelter, and was a class representative for the Fast Track program while she was at St. Lawrence College. In her spare time, Ashley enjoys hiking in the outdoors as well as photography. She's also kept busy with her young daughter. Heather Young. Heather was born in the Barrie area, and her family subsequently moved to Belleville, where Heather graduated from St. Teresa Catholic Secondary School. From there, she attended Western University, where she received her Bachelor of Health Sciences. Heather then attended St. Lawrence College here in Kingston and graduated from the pre-service firefighter program. After moving to Calgary with her husband, Heather applied for jobs at the City of Calgary Emergency Services, initially accepting a position as a recruit constable with the Calgary Police, and then being hired as a full-time firefighter with the City of Calgary in 2018. Her husband is employed with Corrections Canada and has received a permanent transfer to work here in Kingston. Heather volunteers her time as a swim coach with Special Olympics and is a sponsor with the World Vision Canada and participated in the Calgary Fire Department Toy Drive. In her spare time, Heather enjoys hiking, swimming, reading, coaching with Special Olympians. Certainly we have a real diverse group of candidates here. I've had the pleasure of meeting them, and they're certainly joining police in a challenging time, which will begin with 6 days a week, 48 hours a week of training at the Ontario Police College due to the COVID. And of course, as the chief said earlier, they're in isolation. They've already begun their work online. So exciting for the Kingston Police and exciting for these new recruits.
Kristen?
So 3 questions. How widely are these opportunities advertised?
I'm trying to think of the chief could help me out here. I'm trying to think it's the one of the main job work search engines.
I'm just trying to think what it's connected to. It's a widely advertised online application process.
Talking about Enjoin?
Enjoin, yes. But
no, but it's linked
no,
to
the
another
wider one.
site. That's where they Enjoin is where they report to us, but there's another job site that it's applied to.
Is it
It's
site like Monster or something like that?
Yeah, it's similar to that, yeah.
But not Monster.
Yeah, it's not that, but it's a similar type of platform. The name's eluding me right now, but as well as on our website and Twitter account, we're constantly pushing it out through social media to drive applicants.
So I'm just curious whether we're using best practices in terms of where some of the larger services advertise, Toronto, Ottawa, OPP, RCMP, because it seems there's a standardized practice by which larger services disseminate their opportunities, and whether we're following those practices.
We attend job fairs as well. So when there's job fairs, we have our officers that attend as well. So that's part of the process.
Yes, actually, just last winter, we went to the GTA area and sent our diversity officer, Brian McMillan. He went down to the job fair. So we're always exploring, and Human Resource Director Sonia Rabeek also sits on provincial panels as well. So we're always trying to stay at the cutting edge of recruitment.
So I'll leave it at that with the questions sort of for today, but I'd be interested to hear more how we compare to some of the larger services. So, because it appears that certainly in the online environment where most of the young recruits today are, I'm not sure we're following the best practices. So I'd just like to be reassured that we're following the best practices. What was the pool, the total applicant pool that these individuals were from which these individuals were selected? I'm trying to ascertain how selective the process is.
I'm just trying to think of how many hundreds that we had that are through the application process.
Roughly.
Sonia's not right here right now to be able to have access to that, but we've certainly last year we had over 300 applicants that were part through the process. And Enjoin, where they apply, is an online application, so you only take it through online. So it is that, so it reduces the amount of paperwork that you have to copy and so forth.
There's also a whole new OACP certification process, which serves to kind of break down barriers and make it more accessible for people to apply. And that was launched, Chief, maybe correct me, I believe it was January 7th or something like that. This year, the OACP certifications got online. So hopefully that will continue to expand our pool.
But it sounds like 1 in 10 or possibly fewer in terms of selectivity, roughly, like the ballpark.
Yeah, there are some that are screened out. They have to do a PBQ, so it's a questionnaire. So I mean, there's questions about drug use, there's questions about many things that are on there, and certain things are screened out. And certainly with respect to the the background checks, the thorough background checks screen some people out as well. So we're picky about who we accept here too. So it is a rigorous process that's involved.
And how expeditious is Kingston, like from the time somebody submits an application to the time you actually make a selection, sort of on average, and where does that sort of fall relative to other police services?
I know with us, it's around 3 months from start to finish. I think we're pretty quick compared to many, and I think we've expedited the process too, based on the online submissions as well. That's really expedited things and not having to photocopy and get hard copies to everybody and so forth. So we're good that way.
So people have an answer relatively quickly when they apply in terms of different rounds of competitions, like within 3 months of a competition being announced or so, roughly.
Well, they'll be notified at the end. What, you know, those that are selected will obviously they'll be going to background, and then they'll be kept up on the process. So yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Get with that online. I wish I knew what that.
Chris, it does sound like a really nice bunch of new recruits. So we're happy to have them come and join us. All right, we have no unfinished business. We have new business. A request from Donna around delegated signing authority.
You phone. I'm just gonna visit that thing.
So we have a board policy manual that talks about what items need to come to the board for approval. Sometimes items come to the board just sort of FYI. Those are ones that fall beneath the spending threshold that requires board approval. And so Donna is asking that signing authority for contracts and agreements related to budgeted items. So these are items that are already in the budget, which we would have known about because we approved the budget. And they're of an operational nature, but have a value of less than 50,000, be delegated to the chief to sign so that I don't necessarily have to come in and sign them. Second request and recommendation is pushing down signing authority from chief and deputy to the inspectors and the directors of finance, human resources, and information technology. Dawn, Sonia, and our IT Scott. Increase from 25,000 to 50,000. Donna, can you just, if you're there, or Angie, just speak to us about why you're asking us to increase these and what the recent experience has been?
On the first item, in reality, if there's an agreement that's in the name of the board, it has to be approved by the board for the chair to sign. And for some of these items are very day-to-day small items that, you know, to bring forward to the board is resource intensive, and also it takes a bit of time. And the other one, I guess, because the increase is just for signing authority on certain invoices and that sort of thing. And again, it's for approved budget items. So when we get an invoice in, and the city tracks who has what signing authority. So it just speeds up things if we can have these directors and inspectors have a little bit higher, because this $25,000 was set quite some time ago. I don't have the date right in front of it, but as time goes on, the amounts have become less standardized. Yeah.
Indeed. That's it. Okay, good.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about that request from Donna? Kristen, go ahead.
What is the level for competitive contracting for police or whatever sort of the constraints municipal sort of that you fall under?
I don't know what you mean by that, other than anything that has a value of over 50,000 has to go through a tendering or RFP process, unless it's already been under such a process through a purchasing group, such as the Police Cooperative Purchasing Group.
Right, understood. So $50,000, that's the
Yeah,
threshold.
that's, basically anything under than that. And for anything other than that, normally we would obtain 3 competitive quotations to help decide on if, assuming that there are 3 different vendors available.
And my other question is, how does this match with other departments in the city of Kingston? Because it seems that this would be an easy one sort of to align with other departments, both in terms of amounts and in terms of delegated authority.
So that's exactly the same threshold that we have for the city, 50,000.
So what's being proposed here reflects what's already standard practice across the city. Right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Is anybody prepared to move the motion to amend? And seconded by Jeff. All in favor? Thank you.
I have a question. I just wanted to follow up, if you don't mind. Sorry to interrupt. I wanted to get back to Christian's question about our application process. You just located the name was Indeed, and that's the application. That's where the job postings are through. And because we have NJoin, which is where the online submissions are made to us, that application being put into Indeed doesn't cost us anything extra. We used to use LinkedIn. It costs a lot more money to go through LinkedIn, and we weren't getting the bang for the buck out of that. So this Indeed has really expedited and brought a lot more volume of applicants to us. Even in our civilian postings that we've had, sometimes in the nature of 50, 60, 70 applications come through with respect to that. So I have to say we've really increased our coverage by using that Indeed platform to help us.
This is 213 postings.
Right now on Indeed, that there's 213 postings that are open right now. We're just double checked it there. So I apologize. I didn't have that at the tip of my tongue there, but I just wanted to make sure that we pass that part on to you so we have it.
That's very helpful. Thank you, Chief.
Yeah.
And part of what I was trying to reinforce is
Yeah.
that it's quite a competitive process to get
It
hired
is.
in Kingston. And I was trying to underscore partially the quality of the candidates
Yeah.
that have been selected as a way of also reassuring both the service and the candidates that their qualifications are superior.
Absolutely. And I say that application process on top of, going out there to recruiting sessions, and we don't just stay in this area either, but, it helps kind of draw people here and things that we do within our community as well with respect to our diversity officer and outreach that we've done here as well. So I appreciate the question. Indeed, it bothered me that I didn't have that answer, and there it is.
Thank you. Staffing update, there's a retirement coming up.
Yes, Barb Webb. She started her career in 1977 and worked in several administrative roles in different fields before entering the policing environment in 1991 with the Prescott Police Service. Barb was hired as a full-time communications operator in our communications unit in May of 1998, having already worked in the unit on a part-time basis since November of 1995. In February of 2000, Barb commenced her current duties as one of our information desk attendants and assignment that has expanded over the years to include direct entry of occurrence reports and taking oaths and affirmations of a commissioner for taking affidavits. In addition to her regular duties, Barb has also acted as a scribe during incident command operations in response to major incidents, major emergencies, or serious incidents. Barb is well respected in our organization for her professional caring manner and sound judgment. We thank her for all her contributions to the Kingston Police and our community and wish her all the best in her retirement.
Donna, can we send her something from the board just thanking her for her time with us?
Yep, will do.
Thank you. Angie, the next one is yours as well. It's the Chiefs Advisory Council.
Thank you. So I'd like to take the time to update the board on what has transpired over the past few months over and above the COVID-19 pandemic as it relates to the killing of George Floyd. So the killing of George Floyd on May 25th, 2020 by Minneapolis police and the resulting vigils and demonstrations by communities globally, including our own, prompted a letter addressed to our Kingston community and signed by our leadership team and the association president on June the 2nd of 2020. Members of our core unit had reached out to local organizers in advance, and we maintained a neutral, low-profile presence with respect to our demonstrations that were here. They've been respectful and peaceful, and we recognize the importance and significance of bringing these issues to the forefront so that we as a community, including the police, can listen and learn from lived experiences and be part of a culture of change. On the 5th of June, our community, facilitated by Kingston Immigration Partnership, led a virtual town hall discussion about race and racism called Kingston Let's Talk. The town hall had a number of guest panelists, including our mayor, responding to questions from the community on this topic. That same day, we became aware of an opinion posted by one of our officers on his Facebook page regarding the killing of George Floyd and others, which was subsequently screen captured and posted on Twitter. So we immediately took action, and the matter is currently being investigated as an internal complaint. As part of today's meeting, I'd like to provide some local context and to advise the board and our community about steps that have been taken and will continue to occur within our organization to ensure that members of the Kingston Police practice enforcement activities that are carried out in a manner that respect the community's rights and freedom, that members practice bias-free policing, and that we are committed to do our part to address systemic racism. Leaders of every organization have to assume that there's systemic racism within their organization because our systems and institutions are often based on ideas that might not be objective and therefore differentially impact our diverse community. I acknowledge that there's still work to be done, and we are committed to being part of this culture change. As many of you remember, Chief Kloss led our organization through a one-year data collection project starting in October of 2003, following a series of events that highlighted the need for action on the part of the Kingston Police to address perceptions of racially biased policing. We embarked on this data collection journey due to circumstances in our community surrounding perceptions, anecdotal stories from members of our community, a lack of understanding about police procedures and the very difficult role police officers experience as they resolve volatile emotional conflicts, and police response to two high-profile police interactions with members of our Black community. As this project was carried out, specific scenario-based training was also initiated to help underline the necessity of having articulable cause for exercising police powers and to enhance skills in diffusing situations, such as when an innocent person has been stopped because of matching a suspect's description and being in the suspect's location. Prior to that, Chief Kloss developed the bias-free policing order, which was rolled out in May of 2003 to ensure that law enforcement activities were carried out in a manner that respects the community's rights and freedoms, and to reinforce that bias-based policing was not tolerated. This order, which is still in effect, requires all members to adhere to the principles of equality and fairness as embodied in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, the Ontario Human Rights Code, and the Police Services Act. The order also directs that any employee of the Kingston Police who observes or receives a complaint of bias-based policing shall take immediate corrective action and notify the appropriate supervisor. This order is allied to the Order on Collection of Identifying Information in Certain Circumstances, or CIICC, as it's known, which was provincially mandated through Ontario Regulation 5816 and came into effect January of 2017. As you're aware, part of this regulation requires us to file an annual report with the board. Of note, the CIICC validates the 2003 efforts of the Kingston Police to emphasize the importance of articulable cause. The bias-free policing and CIICC orders are reviewed annually with our members through training scenarios, presentations, or online recertifications through the Ontario Police College. Chief Kloss also developed a standalone Victim Services and Diversity Coordinator position in 2004, which highlighted the importance of creating harmonious community police relationships. This position is currently held by Constable Brian McMillan and has grown to include a recruitment outreach component to attract more young people of diverse backgrounds to a vocation in policing. Community engagement and mobilization has been part of our business plan since 2012 and is key to our core unit, our community-oriented response and engagement unit. Police community interaction is in positive settings, helps to build trust and encourages members of the public to report criminal and suspicious activity. In accordance with Ontario's approved use of force continuum, the Kingston Police has incorporated verbal communication tactics for crisis intervention in the mandated annual training for officers for many years. In 2013, annual training was further enhanced to the area of de-escalation. This training is in lecture and video format as well as scenario-based. It stresses the use of force continuum, and videotaping of scenarios have been utilized to assist in debriefing officers' actions. The purpose is to ensure that members think about and decide the appropriate use of force on behaviors exhibited by the person in the scenarios. Actors have been used from the Queen's School of Drama with scenarios based on real-life situations. Of note, a provincial audit was done a few years ago on de-escalation training, and the Kingston Police training ranked within the top 4 in Ontario. In addition to de-escalation training, peer-to-peer early intervention has recently been incorporated into the use of force training. This refers to when a member observes another member who may be triggered by an incident and steps in to redirect the situation on scene. Recent world events in 2019 reinforced the need for the continuation of a local collaborative and coordinated effort to stand united together as a community and reinforce our commitment to have a welcoming, diverse, and inclusive community. We have held community partner meetings spearheaded by Kingston Immigration Partnership, and this has begun the discussion in developing short, medium, and long-term plans to create a culture of inclusivity and to develop a community strategy for early intervention practices and education. Example includes initiatives such as the Say Hello campaign and sharing success stories of a number of individuals within our community who are mentors for others. One of our officers, who is a recent immigrant to Canada, contributed a video for this campaign. In 2019, we incorporated Indigenous cultural awareness training for all our members. Topics include enhanced understanding and perspectives of the Indigenous community, the impact of residential schools, and strengthening relationships between police and our Indigenous community, as well as implicit bias. Future educational seminars will look at mental health from an Indigenous perspective. The Ontario Anti-Racism Act came into effect in 2017, with the Government of Ontario committed to eliminating systemic racism and advancing racial equity. As of January 1st, 2020, the Ministry of the Solicitor General requires police forces to document the race of individuals as perceived by members of the police forces in respect to whom a use of force report is required to be prepared, and then submitted to the Ministry for research and analysis. In February 2020, we initiated implicit bias and cultural competency training for all our members. This training was developed specifically for the Kingston Police and includes defining cultural competence and how this relates to respectful workplaces, legalities involving workplace harassment, sexual harassment, discrimination, and bullying, key concepts of marginalization, power and privilege, discrimination and equity, as well as implicit bias in policing. In July 2016, the OIPRD began a systemic review of strip searches conducted by police services of individuals arrested and detained. In March 2020, in response to the OIPRD report Breaking the Golden Rule, a review of police strip searches on Ontario, the Kingston Police Search of Persons General Order was revised to incorporate new policy and procedures in relation to strip searches. There was also related training conducted for all our members in the spring of 2020. In 2019, under the direction of our HR director, a committee which includes association representation was struck to review our promotional policy with a view to ensuring competency-based process is fair, equitable, and transparent. The Kingston Police Strategic Plan for 2019 to 2022 includes the objective safeguard our reputation and invest in relationships. Under that umbrella, goals have been set in relation to equity, diversity, and inclusion. Through the diversity officer, we intend to research and develop a chief's working group. We're still working on what that name would look like, but although we routinely have community consultations as part of our business planning cycle, this would be a collaborative approach for informed decision-making. For example, a call for dialogue with members of the Kingston Police and one or more community groups regarding a particular issue or inform the decision or how to inform our decision-making. This doesn't have to be a defined community group. There could be different partners at the table depending on the situation. What's most important though is that the conversations are real, there is straight talk, and people are sincerely heard. By having real engagement and working on issues together, the Kingston Police can avoid prejudging or prescribing in isolation solutions that may ignore lived experience. It will also support our efforts to be adaptive and responsive to concerns on an ongoing basis. Whatever we do, I want it to be thoughtful, meaningful, and collaborative in nature, and an ongoing process of listening, learning, and understanding. We must listen to and learn from lived experiences, address our own biases and privilege through meaningful and honest dialogue as part of a commitment to continual learning within our organization, and ensure that we have workplaces that embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion. Setting in motion a more consistent method for community dialogue will help us to achieve these goals through concrete action. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about. And I thought that, as I mentioned, I think this working group, yet to be determined on how we name that and how that's all going to be formed. But I believe that it's something that will be very helpful for us as we move ahead.
Jeff and then Brian.
Thank you. Could we get a copy of what you just said? Because I've had a few people ask, like, what has the police been doing to address these issues? And I started taking notes, and we got about half of it. I think I may have missed about half of it as well. Thank you.
Okay.
Brian?
Thank you, Chief. I just want to speak in support of this idea that you've put forward for an advisory group. I think that when I reflect on the town hall on racism that we had a couple of weeks ago, that one of the big takeaways from that discussion was the importance of continuing that conversation so that it can continually be brought up and be able to share and to speak and to raise concerns. I think you've done a great job reviewing many of the things that have already happened, things that have been put in place. And I think there's many in the community that may not be aware of all these measures that have taken place. One of the things that I've shared is the number of conversations we have around this table, whether it comes to use of force or when it comes to cultural awareness training or confronting, biases or systemic racism. So I think being able to expand that conversation, obviously this is a small group to be able to do that. It's very important that we're having these conversations, but being able to expand and give other people access to have those same conversations that you're having with us, I think that would be really valuable. So I just want to say I think it's a great idea, and I think it will certainly be well received.
Thank you.
Christian?
So it sounds like there's two separate targets. One is the external interactions. The other is the internal institutional culture piece. And on the internal piece, are there synergies that could potentially are already being harnessed between the police service and the city writ large, given that often civilian organizations, I don't know the numbers for the city, but often civilian organizations are a bit more reflective of their own community than the policing organizations. And so are there areas where perhaps also we can generate move in institutional sort of cultural change, which is notoriously sort of gradual, by harnessing synergies more systematically across the city?
Yeah, I think that's all good, and I think what it helps inform us is that when we have dialogue between our police, whichever the number of police that are present and the community group that's present, that we come together as a dialogue and come to solutions together. And it's not us telling them or them telling us. We sort of develop whatever the solution is together. And I just wanted to say about, the internal dialogue and the internal climate. One of the things I didn't mention here, but it's part of the bigger picture that we're doing here, because it's really a holistic program that we have. I mean, we've really started changing our culture starting in 2013 to where we are now in terms of inclusivity and acceptance of others. And it started with psychological health in the workplace and peer support training and peers that are there, our psychologists, resilience, all those things to ensure that we are inclusive and accepting within our own culture. Of course, that translates out into the community, and then diversity comes naturally to us because we're accepting and inclusive. And I think that whole picture builds on other things that we're doing, and that would be helpful for, the civilian component as well.
And I think that's a great initiative. I know a lot of work has been done over the last few years on these issues. There's more work to be done, obviously. I think everybody is taking a hard look at themselves as individuals, organizations to which they belong, their workplaces, and thinking about how they could do better. And so I think it's really great that you're prepared to put this together to show some leadership in our community in conjunction with the city and other folks who are being involved, and hopefully together we can all work towards the change that clearly needs to happen.
Thank you.
All right, anything else from anybody? Christian?
This is not on this issue. I have a separate question as a follow-up from something from last time. So I just want to make sure you have a chance to finish the agenda before I just ask an administrative question.
Yep, now would be the time.
So I wanted to ask with regards to the location where the horse is being stored, in terms of the site of that site, whether how that site was selected, whether that site has any relation to Kingston Police, how that was contracted. So those would be my questions on that, and the specific costs associated sort of with that contract.
Okay.
If
So
you don't have an answer to these details, we can also table it until next time and you can come back. I don't want to put you on the spot, Chief. So
I could get more details in terms of the contract for you because I don't have it in front of me, but whatever you'd like, I can certainly provide that to you. But it is with, you know, our Deb and Brad Whitlam are who have the horses. It's their horse. They own the horses, and we lease the horses from them.
is there any relationship between them, current or former, and the City of Kingston or the Kingston Police Service?
They are former employees of the Kingston Police, yes. Police officers.
How was that contract? Was that contract awarded competitively?
They developed the horse program, the mounted unit. It was through Brad many years ago, because they were have horses, and they have horses for police horses, and very connected in the police horse business, and that's where it started from. So it was sort of a lengthy relationship in terms of this.
What was the contract awarded competitively relative to the rules in place both at the time and today?
They are their horses, so they are with them. So that's why the horses are there with them.
And was that contract approved by the board?
Yes, it was. So it has been approved by the board in the past. If I recall correctly, when we got budget to City Council this past time, it did not include the cost of horses. And Angie, correct me if I get some of these details wrong, because we're going back a week. There was a lot of community concern about not having the horse anymore. There was a petition. I think there may have even been people attending at City Council to lobby for the horse. And at that time, our community was really saying, we want the horse. We like the horse. It's great for community policing. Our kids like it, tourists like it, all the rest of that. There was then discussion about how to fund the horse so that it didn't come out of the police budget. There were assurances given at that time based on what things were like at that time that there would be fundraising sufficient to cover the cost of the horse. And so as a result, we kept the horse on and entered into, I want to say 1 year, but I actually can't remember the length of the contract, but it lined up with the fundraising efforts that were going to be ongoing to pay for the horse. Then of course COVID hit, fundraising is difficult at this period of time. All organizations are finding that. So there hasn't been, my understanding is there hasn't been enough fundraising to cover the cost of the horse, although that was the intention at the time. And we have a current binding contract to keep the horse on. And so I think we have that obligation that we entered into at that time. And so we have to see that obligation through to the end. And then we'll have to see what things are like. I mean, our community may be different coming out of COVID. There may be more priority put on other things than the horse. I just don't know. It's a slightly different world now compared to what it was like then. So that's sort of how we got to where we are now.
I thank you for the background. That background is helpful. My concern is with regards to at the time when how long does the contract still run? And when the contract was awarded, was it publicly disclosed that the individuals who
Yes.
would be having the contract had a former relationship with the Kingston Police?
Yes, yeah. It was publicly, it's been known. There's no hiding that. You know, looking after a police horse is a lot different than boarding a horse, you know, a regular pet or anything else at a stable. These are high functioning animals. They need to be trained. They need to be looked after. There's many things that go into the care. It's not allowing the public to go feed the horses or anything like that. So there's a lot more. If you look at the Toronto or Hamilton police, any of those, I mean, police horses are different and have some extra security that goes along with that. So, you know, there wasn't anything that's being hidden here. There's nothing of that sort. I can assure you of that. I know that the you know, the use of the horse has very much been in when we've used her with Murney, and of course there's Donovan as well. So they worked in pairs, but they patrolled the streets, the trails, parks. They would work with protests and civil disturbances, crowd control. They were very much part of that. Search and rescue, parades, funeral escorts, special events, obviously school visits, a lot of PR. But the horse was also used in terms of policing as well. And that was used, you can see pictures of the current rider, Sarah Grunewagen, and Cunningham now. She very much in terms of traffic, you can catch traffic violators in terms of distracted driving, many different things. So it's also used for policing purposes and search and rescue. They've been certainly been value in that. And there's been a whole Whig Standard article about the history of the horse and what they've been used for and so forth. So there's that as well. Again, it's tough, you know, under the circumstances. We didn't predict the pandemic, and as I mentioned, and as the chair has mentioned, is that you know, that was one of the unfortunate things that had to go for us in terms of our budget proposal. And I know that we did have a lot of community support to really encourage us to keep that and to start that fundraising. So we have some, not all. That's not to say that more won't happen, but we just have to wait and see what the climate and what the climate change brings. It might be premature to say that fundraising is off the table.
So I remember there being an article in the Whig. I've just had a quick look. November 15th, 2019, when the community was saying, no, please don't get rid of the horse. That article starts off by pointing out very clearly that Brad and Deb Wicklum are retired officers, and it goes through the whole history of the mounted unit and everything else. So it definitely was public that the police officers, that was information that was known to the board, disclosed to the board, and also to our community in general. So if you want to look that up, that's in the Whig, November 15th, 2019.
Thanks for the clarification. How long does that contract run? Roughly. If we don't have the details, we can table it until next time.
Okay. And I just to capitalize on what the chair has mentioned, even on May the 12th, 2017, at a board meeting, it was also discussed leasing of the horse for the mounted unit, and so there was discussions in public there at the board meeting at that time to continue on with the contract. In other words.
Yeah, it's to the board several times in the past. Okay, anything else about the course? Moving camera. Brian, Jeff, all in favor? Thank you.